Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, as you probably have already realized, is another book haul. And now I want to start by saying I actually did pretty good. I bought basically no books in the month of May, and then June got worse really quickly. But toward the end of May, I bought like a couple, and then I'm like, okay, I'm still doing all right. You know, went to Half Price Books, picked up a couple of things. It was okay, and then made the mistake of looking at Book Outlet and got like 8 more books, and then I went back to Half Price Books because I had a 10% off coupon, and yeah, it's gotten bad again. So the section of my shelf where I keep books until I do a book haul video got full, which signifies it is time to do another book haul video. So let's jump into it and talk about what I got. These are kind of in no particular order. Honestly, they're arranged by size of like the physical book, not the thickness, because of the fact that I had them on the shelf that way. So first up, we have The Stone and the Flute, and this is by Hans Behmen. And I'm not gonna lie, I look at this and I think like this could either be pretty interesting classic fantasy or this could be terrible. But it's kind of, it sounds like it's a very classic type feeling fantasy about a young boy who is, you know, has destiny and he gets like a magic stone and a magic flute. And I looked at this, and this was the one time I was at Half Price Books and I was talking to some people, and so I had to hurry up and like grab something because I have to buy something when I'm there. And so I just could have grabbed this without too much thought. But this probably won't be one I get to for a bit. It's definitely not going to be high on the priority list. But it is one that I, of course, everything I buy eventually I do plan to get to, or I wouldn't buy them. So next up then, this one I actually specifically went out and bought online because I needed the same UK size. And that is The Traitor God. This is kind of like a grimdark revenge type story, and I specifically bought this book because I had previously picked up The God of Broken Things at Half Price Books because it was really cheap and I was like new, and I wanted to make sure they were the same size because this is for some reason was UK, and so I got this as well. And this is one, too, that Narcel over on the Discord read and was saying it was really good, too. So I needed to get the first book so that I can read both. Now I have both, so those I might have to bump up a little bit and get to. And then this one is actually... I can't remember whose fault this one is because so many people have been mentioning it, but in my last book haul, I noted I got a few Guy Gavriel Kay novels. I still have yet to actually read anything of Kay. But specifically, I think a few people even said that the Lions of Aurson was a really good one. And lately, every time I go to Half Price Books, they have a ton of Guy Gavriel Kay. So I've just been kind of trying to pick up, especially if it's first book in a series or standalone ones, to get more of him. I really think I'm going to like him. I just have to get around to actually putting some of his books in my TBR. And the TBR is, of course, always the problem because there's, you know, I keep buying books and it keeps growing. So keeping up the recommendation train, though, I got this copy of The Darkness That Comes Before. This is actually an old library copy, so it's not in the greatest condition, but it's not terrible. But I picked this up because this was originally brought up this series by R. Scott Baker by Slowly Read, and he has had so many really good things about it. And so on his recommendation, I was already interested. And then Narcel, again, has been reading this and trying to get everybody to read Baker and read the Prince of Nothing trilogy. So I am excited to get to this. It's my understanding this is the kind of book that you only read when you have nothing else going on and can just really focus on it because Baker's prose and kind of the story is just like really deep. So this is another one, too. I do want to get to sooner rather than later, but I'll have to make sure I have a clear spot for it. But it sounds like that also should be a pretty good one, so I'm excited. The next up, and this is, I'm not going to lie, I needed to get free shipping from Book Outlet, so I just kind of grabbed this one. But Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff, and this is, I saw the show. I thought the show was pretty good. I honestly don't know how close to the book the show was, if at all. So I thought it would just be interesting to take a look because I did like the show. It was on, I think, HBO. I actually had a friend who wanted to talk to me and other people about it so much that he bought a an HBO Max membership and just gave us all the password to share so that we could all watch Lovecraft Country. So I did like the show, and so I figured I will give the book a try at some point. It's not a super long book. It's got pretty good sized print too, so that should be an easy one to knock out. So the next one does not have a dust jacket. This is actually, funnily enough, why I picked it up, because I'm like, oh, what's this? This looks interesting. And it is called Arafel's Saga, if you can actually see that, by C.J. Cherry or Chera. I'm not really sure. I don't know this author, but like I said, I picked it up because it was, here it's interesting because I couldn't see what it was supposed to be. And so this one, it sounds like, is the story like that mankind like wiped out elves for the most part, but there's like one area of the world where there are still some elves, and so one of the last surviving elves is trying to like forge a new life for them or something, it sounds like. And so this is, I guess, like a combination of the first two books of this series. There were a couple of different versions or something too, it sounds like. But also, after picking this up and thinking it sounded interesting, there was a whole shelf of books by this author. So I figure if I do end up liking this, there will be a lot more I can get because Half Price Books is stocked. So, we next have Gates of Stone by Angus MacCallum, and this is one I will admit was kind of more like I needed to fill up for free shipping on Book Outlet. There's always a few of those, and this is one that follows a princess who ends up not inheriting the throne because she's a female, and then like goes off on an adventure to get wealth and an army in order to take over the throne. So this is one too where I'm not entirely sure if I'll actually like this, but cover was pretty interesting, and it sounded interesting enough. And like I said, I picked this one up mostly to fill out my free shipping requirement. So it's probably not one I'll get to super soon, but there it is. That's what we have for that one. Moving on to the next pile, there are 3 piles, so we're about a third of the way through. We have Dragon Champion, the first book of Age of Fire by E.E. Knight. So, A, there's a dragon on the cover. That's usually a pretty easy way to make me pick up a book. B, it actually sounds like we're following the dragon's story and point of view, and that was really all I needed to know. It's like dragons are being wiped out, and it's one of the surviving dragons who's trying to find other dragons to see if any are still alive. And that sounded so interesting to me, so this was really easy for me to click to add my card on Book Outlet. I like dragons, and actually following a dragon POV I thought would be pretty cool. So that is that one. I'm actually lightly setting these next to me, just FYI. I'm not throwing the books. I wouldn't do that to the 4 books. Next, we have The Last Dark by Stephen R. Donaldson. And this is the last book in the final Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. I already have the first 3, which I actually think I also all got on Book Outlet. So when I came across this one, I'm like, yes, that's the last one I need. I still got to read the second trilogy. I've been saying that for a while. I still hope to do it this year. We're only halfway done with the year, so I still have time. But this was, yeah, I've been trying to get to those. I loved the first trilogy. Super different and weird and dark and philosophical series, but it's one I really, really enjoyed. And so I definitely am excited to read the rest and just kind of see where the story goes, to be honest. Next up, we have The Waking Fire by Anthony Ryan, which is book 1 in the Draconis Memoria. This is another one. Anthony Ryan is an author that I've been hearing a lot about. I keep hearing that I really need to check his stuff out because I have not read anything from him. And this sounds like it's like pirates go and hunt down drakes because they basically use parts of them as a really valuable commodity, but they're starting to die off, so they go after some even more dangerous types of drakes. And honestly, that definitely sounded cool enough. Once again, I mean, it's a drake. It's not technically a dragon, but it's close enough to already interest me anyway. Plus an author I'm planning to get into. Easy sell. Then we have The King's Blood, which is, I think, book 2 in Dagger and Coin. Yeah, book 2 in Dagger and Coin by Daniel Abraham. Daniel Abraham is another author I've been wanting to get into. I'm not going to read this series for sure until I read Long Price Quartet. That's definitely coming first. But I actually found the first book of Dagger and Coin a while back. And so usually I hate when they only have the second book at half-price books. This one, they actually had book 2, and I already had book 1. So I just figured I'd pick it up because I'm pretty excited to read him. And whenever I can get multiples in a series and read them a little bit closer together, I like to do that. So that is the plan there. And then, this has actually been at my half-price book for quite some time, and it's Knights of Black and White by Jack White. I'm pretty sure I've heard people talk about this on BookTube, but it's basically, it sounds like it's kind of like a Templar Knight type story, and I was reading the back description. Sounds interesting, basically like someone dies and then is revived and brought back to life and made one of these knights. And it's something too, like I said, I've heard a little bit about this. It's been there a while. This thing looks like, I mean, this is a used book, but it looks like brand new. So I thought I'd pick it up. I don't know a ton about that one, but it seemed interesting enough. Moving on to the last pile here. We're in the hardcovers still. Now, the first one I have is Black Trillium by Marion Zimmer Bradley, Julia May, and Andre Norton. Now, all 3 of these authors are actually authors that I have not read. I've heard of the first and the last, Marion Zimmer Bradley and Andre Norton. I've heard of. I haven't heard of Julian May. But I was reading this, and it sounds interesting. Is multiple authors. I feel like that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. But it sounded pretty interesting. And the story is basically like this archmage gives her power over to these infant triplet princesses, and then like a dark mage is coming and trying to take over their kingdom, so they're like sent to different corners of the world to try and find the magic to defeat the dark mage. So it sounds pretty classic fantasy, but it sounded interesting enough. And honestly, this cover, like seriously, just look at this cover. I mean, that's what really got me interested looking at it in general. Even the back is like a nature scene in the mountains. You give me a cool cover, I'm gonna be a lot more likely to pick up your book. And if I pick up your book, then I'm going to be more likely to buy it, of course. Because I also have a problem, you know. So then we have Spine of the Dragon by Kevin J. Anderson. This one, I'm not going to lie, I mostly bought because I saw my friend Andrew from Andrew's Visually Reads bought this, and he had this in a book haul, and I'm like, that sounds cool. And so I didn't know a ton about this, but it sounds like it takes place in a world where like there were dragons and there were these other creatures, and they were supposed to slay like the last like dragon god or something to take over and new dominion of the world and have the world remade. And they end up like creating humans to fight in their wars, but then they die out, and like 1,000 years later the humans are left, but then this other race like shows back up. And it sounded really cool. I picked this up, like I said, I actually didn't read about it until after I'd already purchased it, because I'm just like, oh, that looked cool when he had it, so, you know, that's why I bought it. But it actually sounded really interesting, so this will definitely be one I will be looking to get to, hopefully before too terribly long as well. All right, so the next one, and just look at this, because this was honestly a cover by The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. And there's something about this cover I just really liked. I don't know how much detail you can see here with like the flecks of light, but it really looked cool, and I really liked this, picked it up based on this. This is one where I think the actual book content could easily go either way, because it sounds like there's like a priestess who's supposed to be sacrificed, but like at the last second, a wizard comes by and offers to like take her away to another area so that she doesn't have to die, and then she becomes like a thief assassin type person. And so that description makes me think I could either hate this or I could really like it, and I'll have to find out. But honestly, this was 100% a cover buy, because this just looked super cool. Interesting as well. And last, and not necessarily least, but okay, this is another one I bought, and I'm not sure if it'll be any good, but I've mentioned before I'm a sucker for dinosaurs. And this is Dinotopia Lost by Alan Dean Foster. Now, this is like the guy who wrote Dinotopia, the original novel, which I've read. I also read The Hand of Dinotopia, which was another Dinotopia novel. And I loved those books when I was younger. I loved like the mini series. I was a huge Dinotopia fan, so this was just a random one I picked up at Half Price Books because I'm like, I haven't read a Dinotopia book in probably 10 plus years, if not longer. So why not? We'll pop in a Dinotopia book. And I like dinosaurs, especially like people living with dinosaurs. It's just cool. You can't tell me it's not, because it just is. Same reason I bought the Dinosaur Lords and the Dinosaur Knights over here, because dinosaurs, they're cool. I mean, I like dragons too. Dragons are kind of similar, so there's a common theme here for reptiles, apparently. Though I was just reading Jurassic Park, and I know that dinosaurs are more bird-like, which I knew anyway from before Jurassic Park. But yeah, dinosaurs, I just like them. All right, so those are all of the books that I have bought within the last few weeks. Like I said, I've been good for a bit. I recorded my last book haul not terribly long ago, but all those books I'd had for a bit. So hopefully I won't have to record another one again. If you have a book buying problem, make sure to check the link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord, where you will find a channel entitled Book Buyers Anonymous. It's a safe place where you can talk about your book addiction in peace, and probably in all likelihood be encouraged to buy even more books. Let me know any of the books that I have you read these? Are they good, bad? Any you recommend bumping up or bumping down, I guess, for that matter too? It definitely could be. Always happy to hear about it when I get new books, what anybody knows about them, because I definitely base a lot of when I get to them off of what I hear from other people and if it's worth bumping up or not. So let me know. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And of course, if you want to see more of my content, make sure to subscribe.